Okay. Welcome everyone to the Creatives Roundtable. I am your host, Nancy Bruzzo. For those of you who are new here, the Creatives Roundtable is an accountability group and creative community that meets monthly online in groups of 6 people to help you with the business side of your creative business by breaking your goals into bite-sized tasks that are manageable, talking through hot topics, and getting feedback from one another. We have an accountability groups as well. We have a Slack community. That's where all the conversations take place about work events, questions and answers, like what printer do you recommend, what color are your walls. I am too busy for this job, who has time, etc. People are texting me now for an event link. Once a month, we have these CR 60-minute events with special speakers, which are free to our accountability group members and 50% off for our Slack members. Upcoming events, April 23rd, trademarks, what they are, their value, what they protect, and the application process. Thank you, Amy Gorak, I appreciate that. May, how TikTok and short form video can elevate your business. June, 3 steps to uncomplicate your marketing and attract more dream customers. And July, Canva for Creative Cloud users. You'll be getting emails to attend. Could everybody please mute? You'll getting emails to attend because of your attendance today. You can, of course, opt out of our emails. We'd love for our attendees to keep their videos on to support the presenter. And now a little bit about her. Danielle Hughes helps people and brands that target them to develop their genuine personality brand. She creates content that sounds like you and gives you the space to truly be yourself in your messaging. She massaged my homepage copy and rewrote my about page, which has garnered great comments by those who visit it. She is a wordsmith, a magician, a versatile copywriter, and a bit of a badass. Take it away, Danielle.
I mean, a bit of a badass. That's not accurate at all. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Nancy and I have known each other for a while now, and I'm excited to see some familiar faces and some new faces. And I know, we only have a limited amount of time, so I am going to jump right in and share my screen. And since we're like a smaller group, you can feel free to put a question in the chat and ping, and Nancy can interrupt me because I probably won't check the chat. And then this way we can make it really sort of interactive and organic. So one more second, let me present. Okay. And let's just remember that I'm not a designer. So if you don't like the way my slides look, that's why. Okay. Okay. All right. So I always like to start my presentations with this quote, even though, quotes are overused and they're all over the internet and who knows what's attributed to who. This is actually a real Oscar Wilde quote. And I think it just speaks to everything about what I'm about in terms of messaging. The fact that we really need to embrace our own uniqueness and really lean into who we are. And I feel like more and more as we get into this really cluttered digital world and a world that is severely lacking empathy, this is more important than ever. So this is where it all began. So I went from cute little semi-pudgy child to bigger, pudgier teenager to bigger, pudgier human. And I will say that the reason I'm sharing this is that when you grow up as a very, very overweight girl on Long Island, it is really challenging and traumatizing. And I think I spent a lot of time trying to shrink myself because my outer exterior was so big, and I had a lot of trouble tapping into my own personality, knowing kind of how to assert myself, how to advocate for myself, how to just kind of let loose and be really comfortable in my own skin. Sorry guys, I have a magic mouse and it's sometimes too magic for me. And so it just sort of formed a lot of my earlier life and career in terms of just not really knowing how to own who I was as a person. So I started out actually in television and ad sales marketing. I did go to college and I got my BFA in advertising design and graphic communications. So I actually was a designer. And I realized in college that I was a better writer than I was a designer. So when Photoshop and Illustrator and Quark, who remembers Quark, came out, it was hard for me. I had a lot of trouble with digital design coming from, having like a scalpel and doing all of I don't even remember any of the terms, but all the stuff manually. And realized that writing was just always something that came really naturally to me. So I ended up coming out of college, getting a job at ABC Television in the daytime division, working for The View and the soap operas. And I got put in charge of creating a lot of the marketing materials that our salespeople would need to go out and sell programming. And one of the things that I always did was write in a very friendly, relatable way. Because even though my target audience were advertisers, right, behind the advertiser is a person who's making that decision, right? And anybody who purchases, whether it's B2B or B2C, is making an emotional decision. They don't know how to remove themselves from that equation. And I always kind of recognized that talking to someone as if they're the consumer, as opposed to representing the consumer, was going to be a bigger benefit. And I moved up a little bit here and there, and I bounced around. I went from job to job, and I actually loved a lot of what I did. But I also, at some point, was getting less and less creative and more managerial, which I resisted. And at some point, I took a job where I thought it was going to make me happy. It was like a director of marketing role. I was getting paid a lot of money, and they hired me and they said, we want someone to come in and tell us the truth and disrupt and all of these things. And of course, that wasn't the case, because the minute I started disagreeing or voicing my opinions, those opinions were not welcome. So I realized that I just wasn't fitting in the corporate world. I ended up getting like a permalance gig at a really small word of mouth marketing agency in Westchester. And I think, I kind of found my home there because I was finally kind of able to be myself, not being a full-time employee. I was able to just kind of relax a little bit and really kind of lean into who I was, because I realized that they didn't own me anymore and I could kind of start to express myself. And then I was freelance for a very long time after that. And a few years ago, I started my own company. And in this process of creating this company, found my voice and what I'm going to share with you today, which is all about personality brand, right? So now I like to say that I'm a speaker, I'm an extrovert. I hate the word thought leader. So I like to say I'm a leader of the thoughts. And I'm doing more and more workshops and trainings, and I do a lot of podcasting as well. And the biggest way to my heart is wine waits ice cream. And I do curse a lot, but I will try not to offend anyone. And currently single. Hey. So if anyone knows anyone, I'm not going to read my bio, but you can go on my website and you'll see that my bio is very expressive, very me. I like to play around with pop culture, and I just think that we really need to have fun with how we express ourselves and create that connection. And one of the biggest comments I get when people come to my website is, "You're exactly what I expected." And that is 100% what we're going for all the time, because we want to make ourselves as fully realized on the page as we are when we open our mouths. So let's talk personality. So, years ago, this concept of personal brand came up, and I struggled a lot with that moniker because the very word personal means private. And so to me, why am I bearing my soul on the internet? Why am I telling you anything that's private about myself? It makes me uncomfortable. And I'm an extrovert, so I can only imagine how uncomfortable it makes people that are a little bit more introverted. So I've sort of redefined this to what I call personality brand, right? Because, again, personal brand, I think of you're bearing your soul half naked in a field of flowers. But our personality is always on display, right? It's who we are. It's innately baked into us. It's already there for people to see. And it's all of the best and quirkiest and funnest and most weird and interesting qualities that we have. And so how do we tap into what those things are in order to really kind of create those stronger connections with our audience. Can you hear all the rustling in the background? Is that really annoying? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, and stop, bud. Sorry, my son had just picked up the grocery delivery from downstairs. And I was like, that's really loud. Okay, so things that can be your personality brand, right? And here's where I create the differentiation between like bearing your soul. So I have a client who has a small PR agency. He came from corporate PR and his whole life, you know, dressed very conservatively. And when he finally left corporate and created his own little agency, his daughter came to him and said, does this mean you can stop wearing black socks? And she bought him all these crazy fun socks. And so that's become part of his brand. So on his homepage of his website, you know, he's got like questions at the top, you know, in his header image that speak to his audience. And the last question is, what color are your socks? Right. So first of all, it like jars you out of the everything else that's on there. And then second of all, his blog is now called The Sock Drawer. And he talks about how he's got these crazy socks. And of course, as a PR person, what helps someone stand out? Wearing something different, being different, cutting through the clutter, right? So he's found a way to take something that's not really personal, but is personality and infuse that into his message. I have another client who's a writer who, you know, told me that she's a bird watcher. And I thought this was so amazing and fascinating. First of all, because I mean, I don't know a lot of bird watchers, but I just think the very art of birding is introspective, it's quiet, it's thoughtful. You have to really be able to pay attention and be detail oriented, right? All of these things that directly relate to being a writer. And so we helped her sort of infuse that into how she talks about her writing. And it's such a natural fit and something she just never even thought could be part of her brand. And now it's, you know, become something that, again, strikes up conversation. You could have food as part of your brand, like Nancy does on her About page, where she talks about brisket and tostones, right? Which is like, you have to read her bio to see where do these things come from. And I show her stuff in a lot of my presentations, and most people don't even know what tostones are, right? So again, it doesn't matter because it's going to spark somebody's interest and they're going to be like, I have to know what this is, or I have to find out more. Basically my thought, you know, the whole thing here is that anything can be part of your personality brand if it's something that's authentic to you. So very quickly, I like to do, what is something about your personality that you think you could bring into your message? Just like throw some things into the chat. Don't overthink it. It's a hobby, it's a passion, it's a catchphrase, it's a color, whatever it is. Oh, sorry. And where's the chat? Oh, crazy mouse, sorry. Let's see. Oh, bridge, yep, awesome. Hiking and wildflowers, yep, hiking could be a huge thing. I don't know a ton about bridge, Pamela, but I would imagine that there's specific terms and things that might really relate to other people that play bridge that you could use. Enthusiasm, bike riding, sports, gardening. Not sports, Reggie, you got to be more specific, right? We got to get a little bit more specific. What kind of sports? Do you play the sports? Do you watch the sports? Illustration, love for the outdoors, doggies, always doggies. Jennifer, yep, Star Wars is a huge one. I actually know someone who's talks of his like bio starts with like the thing in Star Wars, the scrolling thing about a galaxy far, far away. There we go. Hockey player, boxing. Oh yes, I love boxing. Swimming. These are great. Okay, awesome. Love it. Okay, so here's why personality matters. And some of this you may think like, of course, and some of it may be new to you. Personality equals profit, right? Your content is there to humanize you and make you more relatable, right? And the more relatable you are, the more relationships you will build. And the more relationships you will build, the more people will trust you and want to refer you for work and come to you for work, right? So this is not just about getting more clients per se. It's about creating those connections with the people around you so that they feel like they understand you, they feel comfortable referring you, right? That they know, A, you do good work. Yes, like we're going to all assume that we do good work, but like more than that, that you're going to be good to whoever they refer, right? That there's going to be a trust there, that there's going to be a respect there. And you know, when we refer someone, there's a lot on the table because you don't want to be embarrassed if you refer someone and that person is a bad vendor, a bad provider, a bad client, right? So again, like the more we can create those connections by putting our personality out there and creating these other connections around us, the easier it is for people to be like, oh, I know the perfect person for your project and it's so-and-so. And here's why, because your personalities are aligned, right? So you want to create this steady stream of people coming to you. And again, that's going to come from just being more yourself and not holding back. Right? We don't want to fit in, right? Because fitting in is generic, right? There's tons of designers, writers, you know, voice actors, all the things, right? There's competition out there for all of us, but nobody does what we do in the way that we do it. And that's what we're trying to shine a light on, right? You're never going to say you're the best at X, and we don't want to say that, but like maybe your approach to how you design, or the approach to how you write, or the approach to how you do your voiceovers is different, right? Maybe you're super empathetic in the process. Maybe you have something specific that you talk to clients about. So I want you to think about sort of your own approach to your work and your own process and how you can lean into that as a benefit for your clients. And I like to say that you don't want to butt yourself. So if any of you have ever done improv comedy, the biggest mantra of improv is yes and, right? They never negate an idea with improv. Everything is a yes, and we could also do this, right? Everything is built on, right? Because negativity stifles creativity. So when you butt yourself and you say, well, I could put this message out there, but, or I could say this, but, you are shrinking and pushing yourself away. And I want you to try to yes yourself and say, I'm going to try this. I'm going to lean in. I'm going to be more open. I'm going to put myself out there and be more human. So the average time that somebody's going to look at your LinkedIn page, recruiter, not recruiter, anyone, 7 seconds, right? So we need to grab their attention immediately. We all know we're in a content economy and we have very little time to make an impression. And for those of you who have a website, the second most visited page on that website is your about page. Sometimes it's the first most visited page, because if you Google somebody's business, in the drop down, it'll say about, and I don't know about you guys, but often I'll click on the about page first because I want to see what the company is about first and how they describe themselves before I go to their homepage and I get their standard brand positioning. Okay, professionalism and personality are not mutually exclusive, right? There is this mistaken notion that if you have a personality and you have a little fun with your content, that you are not professional, and that's a bunch of bullshit, right? There's professionalism in being personal, and then there's also formality. And when you're formal, you have no personality. So you have to figure out a way to bridge the gap. And most of us, it's not going to be a problem, because if you're at all concerned about being professional, chances are you're never going to be unprofessional, right? It's about knowing your audience, knowing the space that you play in, right? And like being comfortable in that space and knowing what your audience is going to expect, right? If you're in the law space, there's a different level of professionalism that may be expected than if you're in a creative space. But you can still have some fun with your content. You can still add personality. So your message, for the most part, right, it's about us, it's about you, but it's about serving your audience, right? So we really want to focus on knowing our audience, solving their pain points, right? Why are they coming to us as service providers? What are they looking for? Yeah, they need a designer, but like, why do they need a designer? They need a designer because they can't do it themselves. They're too busy. They don't know how. They're overworked, right? So thinking about their internal struggles that may be going on there and how we can address those, right? And showing what they need, that right? As a designer, you know already why they're coming to you. You understand these pain points, right? And then the most important thing is like, you're trying to demonstrate what it's going to be like for them to work with you, right? How are you going to be on calls? What is your delivery process going to look like? How buttoned up are you? All of these things are going to just help delineate and make it clear how you're going to be in a client-vendor relationship, right? And we know that confidence comes from clarity, right? And it's really easy to write about ourselves when you know who you are, You know who your audience is, you know what they need, and you can specify how you're different, right? And this, this is called brand positioning or value prop, or, there's a lot of different names for it. But these 4 buckets in some sort of statement on your site or in your messaging is so important. And it's also just important to have an internal facing brand positioning so that everything you do, you can say, does this speak to what I'm offering? Does this speak to who I am? Am I talking to my audience, not this huge audience of like random people? Do I really know what they need and what I can do for them that's different? And so I'm going to show you guys a couple examples. Oops, sorry. So these are a few brand positionings from people's websites, and I've just grabbed a smidge to give you an idea of like different ways that we can approach this, because I like to say that there's no like complete wrong answer and there's no complete right answer. You got to find what works for you in the tone that you want to set. So I'll quickly read these. Agency Gen maximizes your marketing efforts to grow your business smart. For businesses that lack an in-house marketing department and need expert leadership to save time, we act as your outsourced marketing change makers, part business ninjas, part creative marketing mavens, and part art directors. We look at your entire organization to ensure you have the processes, strategy, and design in place to generate success. See what we did there? Right? So it is, there's jargon in here, but there's also some fun, right? Calling yourself a ninja or a maven, having fun with the name of the company, the little parentheses. I love a parentheses. Nancy knows. I just think they're so great. It's like a little aside to the person reading, and you can put so much stuff there. And so that's, a little bit more, not formal, but definitely a little like not as much personality, but there's some personality in there. And that's my point, is like, as long as you have a little bit of something that's going to grab someone to say, oh, this is a little bit different. Who calls himself a business ninja? Not many people.
And I just want to say, for those who've been with the Creatives Roundtable before it was Creatives Roundtable, that's Jenny's new website,
Yep.
Jenny Puff.
So, all right, the second one is completely different. Hailing from a small village in northern Germany, Evie brings every aspect of her rural farm-to-table upbringing to her work, from a collaborative hands-on approach to a passion for mindful living that's at the heart of culinary health and the travel worlds she serves. Her artful and enticing still in motion imagery offers a ray of beauty, hope, and joy to the world, something we all need a little more of. Right, so she's a photographer, she does food, right? So she can be a little bit more sort of like woo-woo and emotive, and she felt like it was really important to talk about her background. And then the last one, working with creative agencies shouldn't be hard. If you're looking for a trusted creative resource you can connect and build a relationship with that treats you like family, but the family we like, that's easy to do business with, easy to get a project started, and easy to communicate with, hello, it's nice to meet you. So again, like there's ways to kind of infuse a little bit of whimsy and fun, but still making it clear what you do and who you serve. Okay, more you, and then more you, and then keep going, meaning there's never enough you that you can put into your message. We talked about sort of releasing the generic. I will just tell you, if any of these words are in your current bio, you should take them out immediately. They mean nothing. Here's what we want to do. We want to make ourselves irreplaceable. In other words, if you can put another company's name or a logo on your website or in your bio, and it doesn't change your bio, you're cookie cutter, meaning, there's nothing that's going to be personal about you. So the goal is that we can't replace somebody else's information in our current bio or our about page, because it wouldn't then be them, it would be us. So here's a couple more LinkedIn bios, and these I just gave like the top little blurb. And again, just trying to show you guys different ways to bring some more personality. Spring Rain is a small but mighty team that makes your nonprofit look like a superhero online. We don't just build pretty websites, we turn lurkers into loyal donors, cha-ching, by making your site easy to use and stunning, right? So emojis are also a great thing because again, they just bring a little bit of whimsy. The second one, I'm a professional weirdo and magnet for creativity, right? Who talks about being a professional weirdo? I love that. My vibrant style attracts, my positive perspective brings you closer, and my professional past seals the deal. The rare combination has made me a successful entrepreneur, creative director, and graphic designer. And then I love this last one. Someone once said a sandwich always tastes better when someone else makes it. The same can be said when I look at your food brand with an outsider's perspective and an insider's knowledge. One of my clients said, I excel at bringing organization from chaos. And a former manager said, Karen knows where to find the white space to optimize growth. Right. So infusing testimonials is also a great way here. And like letting people know that you know their business and that you know what's like to be on the inside, right? An outsider's perspective with an insider's knowledge, I just think is perfect for a company that's like, but do you know what you're doing? Do you have a familiarity with who we are?
30 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I'm good. I think I'm good.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to show you guys a couple of quick makeovers. So these are real about sections on LinkedIn that I have reworked. So this one is Sally Shapiro is CEO of Shapiro Event Staffing. First of all, just going to say this first person. Your bio should not say your name. It should say I, because it is your bio. Shapiro Event Staffing specializes in high-end wait staff, blah, blah, blah. They provide waiters, bartenders, assistants, and chefs. Oops, sorry. If a company is looking to outsource their staff, we can accommodate short-term and long-term requests. I mean, this is boring, generic. You could literally put any event staffing company in there and it would not change a thing, right? And this is this person's personal LinkedIn bio, just to be clear. So what if we change it to, are you ready to party? As a young girl, I never met a dance floor I didn't like. In fact, my yearbook named me most likely to crash a wedding. That's why I founded Shapiro Event Staffing. I'm always up for a good time, but more importantly, I know you can't have fun if your event isn't run right. Whether it's your wedding day, anniversary, etc., we provide the people and the peace of mind you need to ensure that the only thing people talk about the next day is how much fun they had, right? So much personality, but still professional, right? There's the reason for her organization, right? Why she founded it is because she is a partier, but then she focuses to like what really matters to you, which is that you can't have fun if your event isn't run right, right? And then she gets into the fact that what do they provide? It's not just the event staffing, it's peace of mind, right? Because when you hire someone, you want to know that they're going to take care of it because that is not something that you want to have to worry about, right? So this is like that really perfect blend of, again, getting someone interested to read, but then really still hitting the marks of what's most important to the viewer, which is, does this person know what they're doing? Can they provide an outstanding service? And what are they going to be like to work with? So this one is, so sometimes you can just put a lot of random personality things on a page and it still doesn't mean anything. So I'm not going to read this whole one, but it's a lot of words, right? Karate and communications, discipline, focus, counselor and trusted advisor across the spectrum of business-oriented communications. What does that even mean, right? Like no idea. Then he gets into key tenets. That like it's a whole bunch of words that mean absolutely nothing. However, if you tweak it, hold on. If your brand is drowning in a sea of sameness, maybe your approach to marketing and communications is just falling in line with what everyone else is doing. Prince Communications balances strategy and tactics, urgency and discipline, as well as brand risk management and a dose of what if we try this, all in the name of relentless success on behalf of our clients. We stopped wearing the same socks that everyone else is wearing a long time ago. That is, we don't believe in dusting off last year's plan and doing it all over again. The only thing we like to wash, rinse, and repeat is our socks. So again, like this is obviously the socks guy, but this idea of that through line coming through in all the communication and really just using that as a focus and just something else that's a little bit different, right? And all of these great metaphors and analogies about sort of doing the same thing over and not standing out and not being different. Couple more. This is like one of my, I did not do this one, just a caveat. I just love it so much. I don't know. I just work here. Ringleader, head honcho, top cat, take your pick. After spending too many years in the corporate world, Lorraine was tired of the bureaucracy, the sameness, and the bad coffee. Instead of forcing herself to fit a square hole any longer, she founded Round Peg out of her house and has assembled a band of talented misfits with the same goals, belief in strategy, and love of cats. So I love how this is self-deprecating, and yet you could also just tell that she's super experienced and smart at the same time, even though she's kind of making fun of herself. right? And then she gets into a little bit more personal, right? Walks the line between professional and maverick, functions on a strict diet of Italian food and art, right? And like there's a lot here that if you were to have a conversation with her, you would be able to immediately start talking about food or art or film or cats, right? If you like cats, which I don't.
Love
I know. Okay, a couple more things before we round out. So more ways to stand out. So again, these are like also little personal blurbs at the end of people's about pages and different ways to approach it. Currently, I live in San Francisco, where the rent is too damn high, with my charming fiance / work from home buddy. When I'm not working with clients, you can find me at a local brunch spot, eating shrimp and grits and using my Peloton as a very expensive coat rack. Right, maybe I'll get serious about my New Year's resolution next year. This next one, I'm a Jersey girl who has a pizza making boyfriend and a rescue cat, Bowser. You can catch me in virtual reality or hiking in real life, but don't be fooled. I have a serious sweet tooth and can whip up a delicious batch of cookies. Want to swap recipes? And then this one is mine. I grew up on Long Island, but ditched the accent. You're welcome. Graduated with a BFA in graphic communications from Washington University and now reside in Forest Hills, Queens in the house, with my fantastic yet sometimes ornery teenage son. Devoted CrossFitter, binge listen to podcasts. Send me your recommendations. Collect and consume fine wine. Send me your wine and plan to move to Italy in the next decade. Send me your eligible Italian men. Ciao. Right. So again, like at the bottom of our about page, if you're really resistant, it's always a place to just have a little bit more space to say, this is where I live, this is what I enjoy doing, and have like a little fun call to action, right? Want to swap recipes. Mine talks about sending me things. I think Nancy, you talk about sake, right? Send me your sake choices or something, right? Like inviting someone to strike up that conversation with you and letting them know there's a person behind the company, right? Because that's again who they're going to be working with. They're not working with Russo graphics, they're working with Nancy, right? So really trying to create that transparency and remind people that we are people that want to work with them, not an organization. So where do you start? First, we got to figure out, right, where is your line, right? Again, like what are you comfortable sharing? What are you not comfortable sharing? If you're struggling, I always tell my clients, go ask friends, family, coworkers, people in your life, at least 5 people for 3 words that describe you. When they think of you, what are 3 words that come to mind? And don't give them anything else other than that. Just 3 words that come to mind when you think of me. And I will guarantee you that certain things will come up repeatedly. And those are the things that you can lean into more for what you do well or things that you are good at. We talked about thinking about your favorite hobby, sport, right? If you're passionate about it, it's going to come through. And so the more passion you have for something, the more you should be looking to find a way to include that into your message. Lighten up, right? It's always easier to dial something back than it is to push something forward, right? So the lighter you can try to be first and then be like, no, maybe not, is easier than if you write very constricted and then try to infuse. It's just harder. Always first person, like I mentioned. If you're really struggling, write as if you're writing to a close friend, right? Like if you had to tell a personal, like your best friend or your grandma or like your 5-year-old niece what you do, how would you describe it to someone who doesn't understand any industry terms, right? That kind of releases the reins as well. And then the last thing is if you sign up for my newsletter, I have a free downloadable called About Me Mad Libs, and it's exactly that. It's a Mad Libs style way of building your bio. And I give you 2 sort of more traditional prompts and 1 kind of fun prompt. And the idea is not for you to use it prescriptively. It's to get you thinking about different things that you've done and different ways that you're willing to have fun in how you describe your expertise and your background. And then the last thing when we're thinking about message, right, we want to make it skimmable and scannable because we know that people don't read. So the more you can chunk your copy and use headlines and subheads and bullets, the more likely people will read it. Always add humor if you can. People love to see a little bit of whimsy. And then I like to think about AIDA, which is attract, right? So you're going to grab their attention with your headline or bold opening statement. what's the interest, right? That next piece has got to be relatable, something that resonates to them, that speaks to them. The desire, right? What can you do for them and what do they need? And then, of course, always the call to action at the end, right? What do you want them to do? And the most important thing is to just have fun. Stop taking it all so seriously. Just let it go, and you'll find that it just is so much easier if you can be yourself on the page and with your clients. And then this is all the places that you can find me.
And I will send out the links for her to sign up for her newsletter and everything at the end. It's a fun newsletter. She it's basically got her personality in it, and she and I also want to say the Mad Libs were amazing to work with. I hired Danielle to write my about page. I did not do it myself, and because she does have workshops where you can do it yourself, and she had me fill it out a couple of times, and it is just it's just a lot of fun to do it about you as opposed to, you know, just about like whatever Mad Libs are normally about. So you guys have any questions?
Wow, nothing?
Go ahead, Amy. I knew Amy.
I mean, it's not really a question, but I just was so struck by the before and afters, like how much personality was in the after, and it just felt so friendly. And, you know, it definitely, I mean, I've been following you for a little while now, and yeah, it just, you know, I even have your Mad Libs thing. I have it's still sitting on my desk. But just like gets, thank you for this, because it kind of gets everything, you know, moving about like maybe even listing experiences, maybe unique experiences you've had in your life and weaving those in, and, you know, just getting away from the generic, which I think everybody sort of latches onto because maybe you feel like you have to. I don't know, but it's just such a bright light. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I mean, I came from a place of not, this wasn't always my messaging either. Like my website a few years ago was just, I was just a regular old copywriter, and I had so little personality, and it wasn't really until I wanted to start my own business, and B, hired Elise, my coach, that she pushed me, and she's like, you have such like a distinct point of view. She's like, you've got to go into that more. And I was so resistant because you're so worried that you're going to alienate people. And now I tell my clients that's the goal. We want to alienate people, because the more people we alienate, the more people we attract, right? You're trying to send a message to the wrong people so that you can attract the right people. And we don't want to be for everyone. And if our message is super generic, you're attracting so many people, and then they're not going to be the right fit for you in the end. And you're going to waste all your time vetting these people and having these conversations that go nowhere. Whereas if you just lean all the way in, almost every conversation is almost a potential client, because there's such a synergy there, because they are reacting to what you're putting out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I think it was the PR guy with the socks, like his first before, I felt like I couldn't even read it because it was like
Garbage.
so many words.
Yeah. It was garbage.
Were like unattractive to me.
I was like, who is reading this?
Yeah.
Horrible.
Pam, you had a question? You want to unmute? Lauren, you're next.
So I started doing branding photography about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's so much fun when you start to ask people what they're interested in, because sometimes people don't even realize what interesting things they have about themselves. I had one woman, and she was like a chiropractor, or acupuncturist, and she was into fountain pens. She would go to fountain pen conferences. She had a whole collection of fountain pens. She could talk about them for hours. And so we did parts of her fountain pens in the pictures. And people are just so interesting. And I think you're exactly right that people, you know, you then attract the people that you really need to attract, and they're really connected with you. And these other people will just go by the wayside because they're not interested.
Yeah. And it's not even like finding your tribe, so to speak, right? It's not like she's only looking for people that are into fountain pens. It just makes her more interesting. And so anybody is going to then be like intrigued by that, or like want to know more. Right?
Well, and I think it adds, like you said, the opportunity for conversation. If you've got something that's interesting. Like I had a woman and she was a graphic designer and she was really into and home design, and she was really into her dog, but then she was also into Mexican food and she was into certain kinds of colors. And it gives you a point of conversation, a place to start.
Yeah. It's like a dating profile, right? If somebody's dating profile is really generic, you don't know how to start the conversation. But if they've told you all the fun things that they do, it's so easy to be like, oh my God, I see that you love the Mets, or that I see, you know, what's your dog's name, right? Again, like we're just trying to make it easy for people to be able to have a conversation with us and connect with us.
Yeah.
Lauren?
Yeah, I thank you so much for this presentation. It's been really interesting and really fun to see how you have really livened up people's profiles. So I have, it's a twofold question. So the first is my business isn't just me, it's like me and the other folks that work for me or work with me, the other freelancers that work with me. And so I was curious, like, if you could talk a little bit more about that. And then the second piece is I have some hesitation around, I mean, I know you just said this a few minutes ago about how, you know, show this, you know, this sort of daring side of you. And I have a hesitation around it because what I guess I would say is unique about kind of how I live my life is I live my life part on the road, part in a van, which is really fun and really cool. But it also, for some people, I have found that when I work remotely, like, and I know it's a new world now and it didn't used to be before 2020, but a lot of people felt uncomfortable with that idea of, you know, me not being here. Like one of the reasons that people really, they reach out to me is they're like, oh, you're in Miami. I'm in Miami too. So they feel that synergy between, oh yeah, we both in the same place, even though we don't see each other. We're seeing each other, even though, like, even now on Zoom, they're like, oh, even though we just see each other on Zoom, like, I know you're here. So like, I'm hesitant to include that aspect of my life. And then also the type of customers that would be like most of the people I work with are, you know, it's branding and packaging for food, beverage, and cosmetics. And it doesn't really relate to that. Like, I don't really want to do stuff for like sports and things like that and travel, and, you know, so it's not really where I want my focus to be. So I just am curious your thoughts on those two things.
Sure.
Thank you.
So first of all, if you guys are like a collective, right? Like you're like a we, obviously you need to come up with some sort of personality that's a collective for the organization, right? So like, I know like Yamilka is with her husband, right? They have a studio. So if you read their descriptor, it's different than the individual bios, right? So I think you can kind of separate the two, but your brand as an organization still needs to have a point of view as the collective. And, you know, you can use words like we or our agency or whatever it is, but you still don't want it to just be like, you know, we are designers who do packaged goods and whatever, right? Like try to find something that at least speaks to all of your sensibilities and again, addresses the pain points of the clients. I think you can put whimsy in there that's not specific to any one person, but maybe it's all about, you know, just a group of like Lorraine had, like a group of talented misfits who've come together. Like maybe it's something like that. That's just a little throwaway line that gives a little bit of distinction. And then in terms of your stuff, I mean, the van thing I think is amazing. Like, I think you could, God, make jokes about it. It's not a van down by the river. I mean, I have so many ideas. I think you have to ask yourself why you are reluctant in terms of like living by what your customers want as opposed to what you want, right? This is your life and you get to say who you work with. And perhaps if you put out there that you're a digital nomad and you're seeing the world and the world is an adventure, you might get more clients that are even better than the ones who are like, no, but I need you here. Because like, why do they need you there? What can you possibly do? Are you going to their office all the time? Are you seeing them in person? Like, I feel like it's such an old-fashioned mindset to say I need someone local to me. And if you were to put out the fact that you're a digital nomad, you may get people that are just much more open-minded and much more creative and willing. I mean, I would I would suggest that you try to lean into that a little bit more. And it doesn't mean you have to say like, I'm never around and I'm always on the road, but you could say I have a passion for travel and I spend a lot of my time on the road. And that's what makes me a better designer, because I'm seeing things and I'm having experiences, right? So if you can tie it into how it serves your creativity, how it serves your clients, right? Because if you're doing cosmetics and food, I mean, those companies are all over the country. And what would make you better is experiencing those cultures and those foods in those places, right? So the fact that you maybe have had like real ribs in St. Louis or Tex-Mex in Texas, or might make you better as a designer because you kind of know the authenticity behind those things.
You could also wrap it into exploring these different areas, like you explore the, concepts or blah, 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 blah that you're going to do for someone, and how, seeing all these different areas of the country makes you a better designer, because you get to see, all the different styles that are out there in different areas. Something like that.
I think it'd be really fun. Your little thing at the bottom could be like, ask me where I'm headed next, right? Like there's a way, people love travel. And I just think that would be much more inviting. And I would be surprised if you really lost as many people as you think you would. I actually think you will attract probably more people. So.
Any other questions? Faith?
Don't forget to unmute, Faith. There we go.
I think you're an absolutely fantastic copywriter, Danielle. I've been a copywriter for 40 years, worked in big agencies and worked for small brands. And your philosophy of being you is right in line with mine, which is, why I teach a branding course as well, is I say that your unique selling proposition, that to me is the greatest thing. I love working on that, because the thing is, whenever I ask a potential client or a client, what makes you unique, they'll tell me something. I say, no, so-and-so down the block could say, give me some more. And after I ask them 5 times and they don't get it right, I just start asking them questions, because I know I'm not going to get anywhere. And after they speak for a half hour or 45 minutes, I'll hear something and I'll say, can you tell me a little bit more about that? And then to myself, it's, aha, I have the golden nugget. I could create a campaign around this. So it's so in line with what I think, with my philosophy is. It's great to see another copywriter. And I think really your copy is like maybe the best I've ever seen. It's really good.
God, thank you so much.
It's really good.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Anyone else? Derek?
Yeah, so beyond you actually answered one of the questions I had in your presentation about the exercise of getting 5 people to give you 3 words. Do you have anything else of trying to get at kind of who you are? I've spent, I've got kids that are 18 to my youngest is 10. So I mean, really, all I really identify with is being a father at this point. I don't have I guess my initial thing is like, I don't know who it's not that I don't know who I am, but I'm like, I can't think of a unique identifier to myself. Do you have any other exercises to kind of get at the base of that? Because I think your message makes 100% sense. And I see it in other folks that have gone through something similar of, trying to do their bio that's a little bit more personal, but also adhering to the, how can I solve your problem, as opposed to like, I am this person.
So a couple of things, definitely do the Mad Libs, because I think that might help, because they will maybe spark some things in you. And I tell everyone you have to do them at least twice, because the first time you're going to be very like, I don't know, I'm uncomfortable. And the second time you might have some more fun. Mm-hmm. Second thing is like, can you maybe think about, okay, if my kids moved out tomorrow for whatever reason, they're all gone out of the house, what would you do with your free time? Like, what is something that maybe you used to do that you are willing to do again or want to do again? Do you cook? Is there like something you do around the house? Maybe that's a passion. Do you do you fix cars?
Sure.
Are you really into, like, you're a voiceover guy, right? Do you watch a lot of animation? Do you play around with things? Like, are you really into like music or sound? And
sure.
I mean, those are kind of things too that, I mean, I know it's very directly related to what you do,
Uh-huh.
but it also makes you interesting. And you could also do a little bit of like an origin story, right? Did you start like playing around with voices when you were a kid, or were
Right,
you,
right.
you know, like,
Yeah, I put that down as a note in terms of kind of, because like I'm new to voiceover. I came from the
oh,
tech world, so it's, you know, it's that's
okay.
that's probably an angle in terms of using the origin story as a stepping off point.
Oh, I think tech turned voiceover actor for sure. Like anytime somebody's done a pivot, I think it's really interesting for a potential client, because it also shows that your expertise is coming from multiple places, right? And it's layered.
Mhm.
And now you have the best of both worlds, because you have the understanding of technology and that creative piece. And so how do those two things align?
Mhm.
I have a new client who is like a composer who's also in tech. And it's like really interesting to talk about like the intersection of sound and technology. And we're really, I mean, that's his product, but his background is all about, you know, music, and now he's in tech. So maybe there's a way for you to also like lean into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Again, I think we always just think, oh, this is not unique or this is not special because it's our lives, but
Right.
it's unique to other people who don't know you, right?
Yep,
And it
yep.
just gives more context for where you're coming from.
Cool. Thanks.
Sure.
Anyone else? Jen.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this, Danielle. I've seen that you've had other speaking engagements, and I was so excited when this came up for Creatives Roundtable and I was able to go. But yeah, it's interesting how you look at things and get that message into your copy. So like I'm looking at my website right now and it's like, okay, I have it on my about page, but I'm looking at my LinkedIn page. I'm like, yeah, my LinkedIn page is totally generic. So I'm looking forward to trying out the Mad Libs and putting this into practice. So thank you.
You're welcome. And you can take part of your about page and put it on your LinkedIn page. Like we don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? You don't want to put all of it probably, but I'm sure there's a couple of chunks that can easily be moved over that just give you that little infusion.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? No? All right. Well, thank you, Danielle. This was great.
Thank you, everybody.
Danielle is also available for hire. So, although she probably has no time these days. So, are you doing any of one of your workshops soon?
I'm not. Yeah, I'm trying to do a digital course instead. I think that's going to be the next thing, so people can self-drive the workshop on their own. But we'll see. We'll see. What happens.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everyone for attending, and thanks, Danielle.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Nance.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.